Welcome to the Photobooth podcast. My name is Nicole, owner of Own the Mama Booth and Own Your Mama Co. And I have a very, very special guest today. I'm here with Brandon Wong, co-founder and CEO of Photobooth Supply Co. Welcome, Brandon. How are you doing today?
I'm like one and a half owners. I'm a co-owner and the owner. Wow. Did I
Yeah.
just get a promotion today? That's so cool. Thank you for having me, Nicole. Pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited. I don't know if we've ever done a podcast episode with you, so this is kind of a big deal here.
I'm a little upset about that, but it's
I
okay.
know. What the heck? All
I'm just
right.
kidding.
We are going to talk about the origin story of Photobooth Supply Co. and how it all came to be, because I don't know that it's really well known, at least here on the podcast. So definitely time to talk about it. I know when I first met you, I asked you the origin story. So I am excited to share that information with everyone here. So can you give us a brief intro, background? How did Photobooth Supply Co. come to be?
All right. So Brandon Wong was a college student. No life goals whatsoever. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I just signed up for a business economics major because it sounded like a broad thing that can get me into multiple jobs. I really had no direction in life. But one thing I was passionate about was photography, and for specifically photojournalism. And I love the aspect of photojournalism because you can use photos to tell someone's story and use it to amplify their voice. Back then, we didn't have TikTok and all these reels and stuff like that. So like photos and even print was still a big thing. So this was back in 2008 when it was my freshman year in college. So I quickly joined the college newspaper and became a photojournalist there, making $10 a photo, Nicole. Big money, right? Uh,
Yeah.
big money. I was rolling in dough there. But another thing that I was also passionate about was celebrations and weddings. I wasn't really passionate about that, Nicole, until somebody posted a wedding photographer's website. And his guy's name was Ben Chrisman. And him and his wife, Erin, photographed these beautiful weddings all across the world. And they photographed it in a way that you could see these couples' souls. It wasn't just these beautiful, like all white, beautiful, like milky photos. This is the kind of in style back in the day. Veil flowing in the air, glamour
Yeah.
shots. These are like raw images of them like looking at their mom crying, the dad looking at the dress for the first time hanging, being very emotional. The flower girl is doing some cute face. Like it was raw. It was real. And that really ignited me to like combine something that I love, like which is like traveling. That I didn't know I loved it back then, but I thought it was cool to be able to travel, and photojournalism. And also you make a lot of money. Weddings are kind of like legal extortion
Yeah.
to a little extent, right? I got married. I paid the dues, so I got extorted as well, right? But at a very young age, Nicole, I was like, how do I get in front of people? And this was kind of a win for me because back then it was 2008, the recession was happening. So, and I was a freshman student. I didn't care about making a lot of money. So I put an ad on Craigslist, wedding photographer, $500. Essentially like willing to shoot for free almost, right? And somebody hired me, and I was thinking, okay, this whatever, this is going to be an interesting, right? It was an engagement session at the St. Regis near me. So really nice hotel, beautiful couple. And then they hired, well, you did such a good job at the engagement. Let's have you for the first event of my wedding. And I was like, first event? What the heck? And it was it's a South Asian wedding, Indian wedding. So they have a lot of days for their events, right? So day one, day two, and they kept on hiring me. And each of these days were like at a super luxury 5-star resort. And then lo and behold, like the last day was at the Beverly Wilshire. This is the Pretty Woman Hotel with Richard Gere, right? This is it must have been like $1 million event. And I'm like, how the heck am I here, right? Shooting this crazy lavish wedding. And that's kind of how our wedding career got started. And the luckiest thing the best decision I ever had was I had my then girlfriend, now wife Katrina, shoot every single wedding with me. And she was amazing because it was two partners in crime. We had two different angles to shoot. And on top of that, she was just an incredible business partner. And we can circle back to this later on of why it's so important to have an amazing business partner. But she was really what helped us be successful as well, in addition to having that luck of capturing that wedding. So from that point on, we kind of were like put on the map of like in this inner circle. And then within a few short years, this is while we were still in college, we were getting flown out to weddings in Australia, Mexico, Singapore, like all over the world. And we were living the dream. Like we're living this Ben Chrisman dream of like photographing these amazing weddings, being part of these people's like really special day, capturing the way we wanted to capture them, appreciating our style. And it was just the dream. When we graduated college, we went full time into wedding photography. That's all we did. We were making enough money. But at a certain point, just a couple years afterwards, I think we were 23, 22 at the time, we kind of hit a ceiling. We were trying to expand our brand and hiring all these photographers to shoot underneath us. But it's so hard to scale a wedding photography business because you need to hire someone who has like $10,000 for the camera equipment. They need to be creative. They need to be funny. They also need to be really organized. They also need to be technical to do all the camera settings. Like that's a really hard combination to find. And of course, all the liabilities. What if they show up drunk? What if late? What if they lose the memory cards? Like what if their lens has a little smudge in it and all the pictures have a dot? Like, there's so many things that can go wrong. So we decided, let's find another way to kind of increase the value that we're providing, but without all the liability. So we had a lot of people asking us for a photo booth. And I figured, well, it's natural to ask a photographer for a photo booth. Let's go online and buy one. And god dang it, there was nothing available. Like everything online to buy looked like it was made in someone's garage. It was terrible. I'm talking like pipe and drape, red curtain. You could literally see the camera inside on a tripod.
Yeah.
Like not cute whatsoever.
Yeah.
Except for one photo booth. One photo booth looked decent. And it was, I'm not going to say the name of it. He's still a good friend of mine. There's this giant photo booth, right? And I was like, let's buy this. Click. $15,000.
Ooh.
And you know how much our booths are now. So
yeah,
5 times more expensive than our Salsa booth.
Yeah.
Okay? On top of that, we needed to rent a U-Haul trailer every single time. So wedding on Saturday, you got an event tomorrow. If I were you right now, 11 years ago, I would have had to drive to U-Haul right now, get it hitched up to my SUV, go to the event like 2-3 hours early, navigate the back of the house. You bring these 7-foot panels through these narrow hallways, hitting every glass I could find until I got to the freaking photo booth rental setup location. It was just terrible. Like just lots of bad memories with that photo booth, right? But the crazy thing was, Nicole, it was getting booked out all the time. People loved it. And it was just like naturally getting more business because people saw it. They saw the picture and they're like, how do I book this, right? So it was just like naturally went viral. And not just to our weddings, but people were getting booked out for other things, like birthday parties, celebrations, restaurant launches, New Year's Eve celebrations. Like it kind of expanded my mind to like how much more addressable market there was with just the photo booth compared to my wedding photography. So at a certain point though, we were like, enough is enough. I can no longer drive this trailer. I can no longer carry the 7-foot wall through these corridors. Like this is too crazy. So we decided to make a photo booth ourselves. And I initially sketched it out on graph paper. I still have it somewhere. I'm very non-technical, okay? This is like I'm a photographer and a business major, okay? I have no idea how to do anything engineering-wise. So I gave this piece of graph paper to someone local. I literally looked up Orange County metal dude. I went to this guy. I was like, can you make this? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he made it. And actually, even before then, we made the first one out of actually plexiglass. And that didn't work out well. The first event, it fell down on the out of the elevator and it broke. So that's when I was like, I gotta look at this metal guy. So we went from plastic. That was version 1. Version 2 is sheet metal. And if you watch like the first movie of Iron Man, like it's kind of like the first one he built. It's like way too heavy. Chong, chong. It kind of comes out like that. That was our first ever photo booth. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, yes, it's more portable because it's like, it kind of looks like our initial legacy booth. You remember that? But it was like super thick, way too heavy. And then we kept iterating on it over and over again. We made it from like a big sheet metal one to a smaller sheet metal one. We went from sheet metal to aluminum, and we kept on changing it more compact. We made it curvier, and we just kept on iterating on design over and over and over again until we got to what we wanted. And at that point, we were really proud to bring that photo booth to event and show it off. And because we kind of were known in the industry a little bit, our friends started taking interest in that photo booth. Like, Brandon, Katrina, are you guys selling this photo booth? Because I'm having the same problem. I'm trying to grow my wedding photography business, and it ain't happening. Like, I need something like your photo booth. It's fun. It's easy to set up. Like, this is awesome. So Katrina and I looked at each other. We're like, this seems kind of crazy. We shouldn't do this. And it wasn't until my buddy came up to me, my friend named Jan Garcia, and he called me late at night. He said, you have to do this. Like, the industry needs this. And I was like, okay, fine. And now the question was, how do we introduce this to the world? And back then, you know, social media marketing wasn't a thing. It was very like in-person trade shows. So there was a trade show coming up called WPPI, Wedding Photographers and Portrait International. This is the largest conference in North America for photographers. And we said, this would be a great time to do it. The problem is, it's happening in 3 weeks. They're like, oh. So we went and we booked one of the last spaces available. We spent another $15,000 on this, right? And this is after we just bought our $15,000 photo booth, right? And just before that, we spent another $15,000 on a wedding photography workshop. So we're literally investing every dollar that we're making into ourselves, right? And we can talk about that later on potentially. But we went all in on this. And we decided, you know what? If it doesn't work out, it's all good because we're just going to make a prototype. We're going to get some pre-orders. If no one orders it, that's fine. We didn't spend a lot of money on inventory. But in that 3 weeks, we literally created a website, a logo, business cards, pamphlets. We filmed the promotional video. We built the actual trade show booth. We made the prototypes. It was so last minute, Nicole, that we actually got the first photo booth delivered to Vegas the day of. It was so crazy that when we got there with our U-Haul full of stuff, that all of our equipment went back into the gate of the U-Haul, and we couldn't even open up the U-Haul door. Everything was working against us. Everything. Right? But somehow, some way, we got that U-Haul door to open. We got our stuff out. We got the photo booth in time. Everything worked out. And the first week of the trade show, we sold $100,000 worth of photo booths. Right?
Wow.
Beyond our wildest dreams.
Yeah.
The following weeks, we actually hand delivered one of the first photo booths in person in Vegas, because that's when our first client was. They paid us in cash. And we used that cash. We're like, let's go buy a wedding ring. So we went down to the strip. We went to a jewelry store. I remember they pulled me aside. They pulled a curtain because like I had all this like wads of 100, right? And he had like pick out the cash money. I felt like a drug dealer.
Oh my God.
Like
Yeah.
counting all the money. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is weird. We bought the engagement ring, and then we got married 6 months after that on January 11th, 2024. So that was kind of the origin story of Photobooth Supply Co. You got the long-winded version because we're on the podcast, but that's it.
I love it. That's amazing. Okay, so that was the first kind of iteration of the photo booth. How did you then come up with the Salsa? Because that was the legacy, right?
Yes, we didn't even call it legacy. We didn't have a name for it. That's how
it was just photo booth. Yeah, the photo booth.
we had no idea what we were doing back then, but all we cared about most of like not the name or anything, but we just want to create a great product, right?
Yeah.
And even with that first photo booth, which is now we call Legacy, we've sold hundreds of those all across the world to mostly photographers, which was our target audience then. And that really evolved into let's make the next version of Legacy. So we got a lot of that feedback, and that's how we came up with Queso actually. And Queso was a photo booth that was in our vision of creating a hardware and software integration. something that worked really seamlessly with each other. But the initial vision for Queso was something that could be a little bit more affordable for people. But back then, I was a pretty amateur product designer. Most product designers, the best thing they can do, Nicole, is to say no to as many things as possible.
Okay.
Nope, that's too much. This is not what the customers want. This is for Queso. I said yes to everything. That sounds cool. This is amazing. This looks cool. And it kept on adding up. And the photo booth ended up being a lot more expensive than I originally thought it was going to be. And it just priced itself out of the market. Like only the top tier photo booth owners could really afford that, right? To this day, I still think it's one of the most beautiful photo booths we've ever made. Maybe my favorite. But we wanted something that was more appealing to the masses. Not everybody could afford a $12,000 product. So we quickly pivoted from Queso to something that was a little more appealing, and something really in our hearts that we wanted to do was also something that was iOS based. We really loved Apple's approach to tablets. We thought that it would make a lot more sense to outsource the computer processing, the graphical processing, the touchscreen interface, all of that to somebody else. Or there's no way we're going to compete with Apple. Absolutely no way. So we want to leverage the power of the iPad platform. And that's how we went in that direction. And then when it came to Salsa too, like a lot of people were asking, like, what's that shape? Well, where did that come up with? Because we were very like one of the innovators of that really cool racetrack shape. That all actually came from me trying to fit that photo booth into a suitcase.
Yeah.
So suitcase is a rectangle like that. I was like, okay, we can't make it a rectangle. That's ugly. So let's just round the corners.
There you go.
And that's how it came. That's it's not that sexy of a story, unfortunately. It's just, how do we fit this thing in a suitcase? That was it. And then the base plate followed, and then from there the poles kind of follow that same shape as well. And then now everything's a racetrack shape. So that's how we pivoted from like Queso to Salsa. And Salsa is as much as we love our other products, Salsa was really when Photobooth Supply Co. really started taking off. We were pretty constant in our company size in terms of revenue and employee count for the first 5 years. And it wasn't until 2019 when we came up with Salsa where things started really rising in terms of like how many customers we were selling to, and the growth that we were experiencing. So now with Salsa, we not only did we have this hardware that was a little more affordable at $3,000, we also had software that came along with it as well. And the reason why we did the software was the same ethos that we did with Queso. We wanted complete control over the entire customer experience so we could make that in the best way possible, right? Previously, with our legacy booth, our first ever photo booth, we were outsourcing that software. They came out with a new release that had bugs, so we couldn't do anything about it, right? Now that we have control over it, for better or for worse, right? That bug issue fell on us, right? We could fix it ourselves. We can actually help the owner in a deeper way. So now that we had Salsa, it kind of came full circle. People were asking for the better image quality again, right? Because we had the iPad image quality, which honestly we found due to the explosion of demand for Salsa, that honestly most people didn't care about image quality as much as the fun factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
People just want a photo booth to take pictures with their friends and have a good time, right? But there was still a subset of clients that wanted the good picture quality again, and they were mad that Queso and Legacy were discontinued. And they wanted that back, so we brought that back in the form of guac and chips, right? And we brought back the DSLR, but we wanted to maintain that iPad component. So that's how Guac and Chips was born. And then shortly after that, we came out with 360 and Tortilla, which, again, really driven by demand. If you ask me, and this is probably too much to say, I didn't want to make a 360 for the longest time. I also didn't want to make an iPad photo booth for the longest time either, but here we are. And so Tortilla came out, and that's our product lineup today.
Perfect. I love that. I want to talk about the names and how you came up with the names of the products, because I'm hearing you started off with Queso. Like, where did Queso come from? Like, where did that name come from?
So we were pivoting from Legacy, and we were trying to think of the name for Queso. we struggled a lot with this, and we didn't have a name for a long time. And this is like even at the 11th hour of product design, we still didn't have a name for it. So me, one of the early hires, went out. We were at shabu shabu dinner, which is like kind of Asian meat and boiling water. Afterwards, we were a little tipsy and walking around, kind of brainstorming names. We started just like putting post-it notes on the wall and like, okay, let's start with Photobooth. What's next to a Photobooth? Well, people say cheese when they take a picture. Well, what's next to cheese? It's kind of like word mapping, right, or mind mapping. And then cheese, we're like, well, what are different ways of saying cheese? Well, queso was one of them. And once we put queso on the wall, we're like, this is it. Something clicked with it. We're just like, this is an amazing name. There's also some study with like the word Q and like that having some impact or something like that. I don't forget the study off of my head, but like it just had some oomph to that name. I loved it. And it also tied in with Photobooth in a really subtle way. And I'm always about subtle elegance. So that's how it stuck. And for better or for worse, that's how the rest of the naming convention also began. so it all started with a drunk night. And then when we were trying to create Salsa, and actually the initial name for Salsa was actually called Queso Go, which is like,
Okay.
looking back at it, was kind of dumb. But it was like a more portable version of queso, I guess. But we didn't love the name. I forgot the origins of the actual name itself, but and when and where it came to be. But if you think about eating out at a Mexican restaurant, right? Salsa is table stakes. You sit down and it's salsa's right there, right? And salsa goes good with queso. So number one factor already, it goes with the theme, right? But it's also something that's table stakes, so an entry level kind of photo booth. The second thing is that if you look up the definition of salsa, it's essentially sauce, right? And you put sauce on any dish to make it more flavorful, more impactful, more bright, right? Just like you bring a photo booth to an event to do the same exact thing, right? It livens up the party, right? By a lot. And then the third thing too was the iPad was so good at capturing motion, and salsa is also a word for a form of dance. So it was kind of like a trifecta. It goes well with the whole Mexican food thing, goes well with queso. It's something you add onto a dish to make it spicy, to make it more flavorful, just like you bring a photo booth to an event. And the last thing was it's also a form of dance. We wanted people to dance and move in front of it for all the boomerangs and video captures as well. That's how salsa came to be.
I love that.
All right, so now we're salsa right now, right? But Nicole's a fancy girl. For those you don't know, right? She orders the guac whenever she goes out. You know what I mean? So guac's always extra. It's the premium addition to the table, right? So that's how the network guac came to be. Because honestly, like it is a step up. It is the higher end photo booth. It's our flagship product, right? So you always want to pay a premium for it. So guac came to be like that. And then chips is the printer stand, because you can't eat guac without chips. And we don't sell chips by itself, but you could also use chips with salsa, theoretically, if you just want to call any printer chips, right? So you can eat salsa with chips, you can eat guac with chips. It all kind of works out.
Yeah. And then how did tortilla come part? Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, the naming convention is a little obvious, right? What's round and flat? That you can also eat at a Mexican restaurant. Well, tortilla. So that one's a little more obvious there, maybe too on the nose. But I mean, I grew up. I'm still living in Southern California. I'm Mexican culture is all around me. Most of the signs here are both in bilingual. It's English and in Spanish. I go to Mexico multiple times a year. I just love the culture. Obviously, love the food. And I think it's just a vibrancy that really jives with our culture, our company. We even give each other internally, as you know, little shout outs in our company. And when you get a shout out, you kind of give each other like a digital currency, and our currency is in pesos as well. So we really embraced that culture here. And we're having a company retreat in a couple of weeks in Cancun as well. So maybe we're taking things a little too far, but
you're realizing that now. No, I love that. So, man, you've just celebrated 10 years of the business, which is, first of all, such a huge accomplishment. Congratulations. because not a lot of people can say that, right? Not a lot of people last beyond a couple years, but you've been able to build, grow, and sustain the business at 10 years, and it's continuing to grow. Can you talk about that growth? What it's been like for you? Has it been bumpy? Has it been easy? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah. If an entrepreneur ever says that their journey has been easy, they're either lying or they're incredibly lucky, right? The thing that us entrepreneurs have to work with is that the business will only grow as much as you grow, right? Um, a lot of times they might look at entrepreneurs like, oh, that person dropped out of college, right? And how did he start his own business? Or, he didn't go to get an MBA, whatever, right? In order for your business to keep growing, education never stops. School may stop, but education never stops. So every year you need to continue to educate yourself, and you'll never master it, because you know what? Everything you learn just got flipped on its head because coronavirus happened, right? It got flipped on its head because you're in a recession. It got flipped on its head because there's inflation. Like, everything is always changing. The rules never stay the same. Macroeconomics change. So without a doubt, this road has been bumpy, crazy turns, roads closed along the way. Anything and everything. I've had to literally terminate and fire one of my good friends that used to work at a company, right? I remember that was one of the early traumas. This man was a ring bearer at my wedding. And I remember when I terminated him, like right when the video opened up to terminate, I just immediately started bawling, right? So you have very close issues like that happen, right? There were times where we didn't know if we were going to meet payroll. It just happened one year, don't worry. And it was really difficult, right? So we
Yeah.
were at the rock bottom of that point, right? There was points where we had a lot of criticism. There was there's so many things that can happen in the life of an entrepreneur. And the thing is, though, like, I love it. Like, there's nothing else I can imagine myself doing. And I think it's the ADHD in me. It's the Enneagram 7 in me. Like, I love doing new things every single day, right? So one day I'm doing a beautiful podcast with you. Just now, I was on a call with my business coach. I had a call with somebody earlier today and about how do we create an amazing video at the company retreat to attract new applicants to the company. Like, every day I'm context switching and doing new things, and it's really exciting, right? But every single day is a new challenge, but I love it.
What is next for Photobooth Supply Co? What do you see down the lane?
Oh man, so many things. What can I share?
Yeah.
One of the big things that we're going to be doing, which many of you guys already know about, is our amazing new app launch, Fiesta. It's something we've been working towards for too long. But this is going to be foundational. And I really mean that in the literal sense that if you've been with the Photobooth Supply Co since the beginning, like, expect the next 10 years to be the fastest we've ever moved, to be the most innovative we've ever been. There's going to be a barrage of new things coming your way that's going to make your life a lot easier and ideally make you a whole lot more money as well. Just expect things that would fall under that breath. But yeah,
I want to ask, does this feel similar to how it felt when you were kind of launching the legacy and kind of starting the photo booth? Do you feel that same energy right now with the launch of this new app?
It very similar. Less because it's not like completely new territory. Like, we know that we already have an established audience. We're building what people want based off a lot of customer data. When we launched Legacy, we're like, is this gonna work? I don't know. Do people want this? I don't know. We know people want this. We know, like, there's everything's gonna come up that you guys are gonna see in the next few months and the next few years. It's based off of your feedback that we've been getting over the past decade. This is going to be very impactful. But it feels just as exciting because it's new and we've never moved this fast before. We've never have been able to deliver this much value before. And it wasn't until this foundation has been put in place. So it is less scary in a sense, and equally, as if not more exciting than ever before.
Yeah. If anybody's watching this and maybe it's their first time, like maybe they've landed on this video or landed on this podcast and it's their first time ever even hearing about Photobooth Supply Co. and they're interested in starting a business and maybe they're scared, what are some things that you'd say to them?
I totally understand your position, right? Like, it is scary to start your own business. Absolutely scary. But our job is to de-risk that as much as possible. There's no other company that you get a business in a box for $3,000 and you get the amount of people backing you up. We have people all around the world that are fully dedicated to your success. We literally have a customer success team. We have a customer experience team. We have an amazing Photobooth strategist team to kind of kick you off, like marketing materials to back you up, contracts. Like if I had Photobooth Supply Co. back when I was hauling the U-Haul trailer, I would have made a lot more money. I'd done a lot faster,
Yeah.
and I would have been a lot happier, and my marriage probably would have been way less shaky back when I was 23 years old, 24 years old. The amount of fights we got over that stupid U-Haul. Yep. Oh my God. Taking that leap is definitely scary, right? But like, we're here to cash in the other side. And I can say this confidently because we've helped thousands of owners all across the world make a lot of money and have a lot of fun while doing it. I mean, I still do photo booth events and it's freaking fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get dressed up. I see other people get dressed up. Everyone's happy, you know? They're on some lubrication, like alcoholic lubrication, you know? Sometimes I play babysitter a little bit, which is fine now because I have a kid and I love kids. I didn't so much before. It's great. It's a blast. I love it.
Yep. Yeah, it's so fun. And I so appreciate, I mean, I know in my journey, like it was just beyond helpful to have the Photobooth Supply Co team as I started my first year. Getting the photo booth business off the ground. I can't imagine working with any other company. And I know so many entrepreneurs. Today, I got to talk to another entrepreneur who went from almost being homeless to now running a really successful business. And there's so much. Yeah, it's wild how awesome it is. And every person that I've talked to has always had to take that very scary, risky, but courageous step forward. And that's always just what it takes. It takes that first step and then we've got you the rest of the way. So thank you so much for this conversation, this story. I loved getting to hear again how Photobooth Supply Co came to be, how you guys came to be, and then the story of how Salsa came to be, because that was my first baby too. So this has been great. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Thanks, Nicole.
We'll talk soon.